300 years after a great fall, in the city of Iron City, a doctor named Dyson finds a damaged cyborg in a junkyard. Despite its broken body, its brain is still intact. So Dyson takes it back to his clinic for further examination. He repairs the cyborg, restoring its body and functionality. When the cyborg wakes up, she is disoriented and unsure of where she is. She notices her repaired body and her new face, which she admires. After changing into new clothes, she goes downstairs, where Dr. Dyson examines her and gives her an orange to eat. Later, with the help of Nurse Gerhard, Dyson takes her outside to see the city. She is amazed by the sight of Iron City and the floating city of Salem above it. Dyson explains that Salem is forbidden territory, and no one is allowed to go there. The cyborg cannot remember anything about her past, including her name. For now, Dyson names her Alita, and she loves the name, hugging him in gratitude. As they explore the city, Dyson steps away briefly, leaving Alita alone to finish her food. A friendly dog approaches, and Alita shares her meal with it. Suddenly, a wanted notice for a murderer of 6 women flies toward her. Before she can react, a massive robot called a Centurion appears, warning everyone to clear the way. Instead of moving aside, Alita instinctively takes a fighting stance. Just then, a young man named Hugo pushes her to safety. However, the dog remains in danger, so Alita jumps in to save it, impressing Hugo with her quick reflexes and skills. Hugo introduces himself, and in their conversation, he learns that Alita was found in the scrapyard. Dr. Dyson returns and explains that Alita is new to the city. As Hugo leaves, Alita finds herself unable to look away, clearly intrigued by him. Later that night, as a woman was entering her home, an unknown figure attacked and killed her in the shadows. At Dr. Dyson's clinic, Alita was startled awake by some noises. Curious, she quietly sneaked out of her room and peeked through the slightly open door. She saw Dr. Dyson walking toward his room, his hands dripping with water. Suspicious and confused, Alita wondered what he might have been doing so late at night. The next morning, Nurse Gerhard informs Dr. Dyson about the murder of a woman the previous night. Concerned for Alita's safety, Dyson warns her to always return home before dark. Alita agrees, but sets out to explore the city. On her way, she is stopped by a woman named Chiren, who seems fascinated by Alita's mechanical hand. Feeling uncomfortable with the attention, Alita leaves abruptly. Later, Chiren confronts Dr. Dyson at his clinic, accusing him of using parts from their deceased daughter's body to repair Alita. She proposes they work together to create Motorball champions, a scheme to earn wealth and secure her passage back to Salem. Dyson rejects the idea, convinced it won't succeed and unwilling to compromise his ethics. Meanwhile, Alita meets up with Hugo and joins a game of Motorball. Though clumsy at first, she quickly learns to control her skates and becomes fierce in the game, eventually scoring a goal for her team. Afterwards, Hugo offers her a ride home and treats her to chocolate, which amazes Alita. During their outing, they also spot a bounty hunter patrolling the streets. Alita loses track of time and gets home late, irritating Dr. Dyson, who reminds her again about being home before dark. Despite his frustration, he serves her dinner. The next morning, Hugo takes Alita to a secret vantage point overlooking the entire city. He shows her the cargo headed to Salem and speculates that, since Dyson found her in the scrapyard, she might have originated from Salem, as everything in the scrapyard is discarded from there. Alita, however, is unable to remember anything about her past. That night, Alita hears Dr. Dyson leaving the clinic quietly. Suspicious, she decides to follow him. She finds him in a dark alley, seemingly about to attack a woman. Alarmed, Alita intervenes to stop him, only to realize that the woman has vanished. It was a trap set for Dyson. As bounty hunters surround them, they address Dr. Dyson as a hunter-warrior. Dyson pushes Alita aside, attempting to fight them, but he is quickly overwhelmed. Realizing he is outnumbered, he orders Alita to escape. Instead, Alita chooses to fight, punching one bounty hunter to death with ease. A skilled female bounty hunter steps in to confront Alita. As their intense battle unfolds, Dyson grabs his weapon to assist, but a massive bounty hunter named Grewishka seizes him by the neck, taunting him to watch Alita die. Despite the odds, Alita's exceptional combat skills allow her to overpower and kill the female bounty hunter. Enraged, Grewishka attacks Alita, but she dodges his strikes and counters with agility and precision. During the fight, flashes of Alita's past resurface, and memories of her fighting in a great battle where she was called 99. Back in the present, she lands a powerful kick on Grewishka, forcing him to retreat. Before leaving, he warns them that he will return for both of them. Later, Dr. Dyson explains that before the fall, the police handled crime, but now the factory pays hunter warriors like him to do the job. He admits that hunting criminals helps him sustain his clinic. After collecting his bounty, Dyson and Alita walk home together. On the way, Alita mentions the brief memory flash she experienced during the fight. Back at the clinic, Dyson reveals a heartbreaking truth. Alita's body was constructed using parts from his deceased daughter. His daughter had been wheelchair-bound, so he created a cyborg body for her. Tragically, one of his deranged patients broke into the clinic in search of illegal substances and killed his daughter. Unable to cope with the loss, his wife, Chiren, left him. Dyson began hunting criminals, hoping for justice. But even killing his daughter's murderer brought him no peace. He then shows Alita the remarkable power source in her body, a heart powered by an antimatter microbe reactor. It has enough power to power the Iron City for years. This advanced technology, which hasn't been produced since the fall 300 years ago, suggests that Alita is at least 300 years old. The revelation leaves Alita stunned, grappling with the mystery of her origins. Meanwhile, Chiren was living with her boyfriend, Vector. Vector demanded that Chiren focus on creating Motorball champions for him, a lucrative venture he hoped to dominate. Their discussion was interrupted when Grewishka smashed through the window, badly damaged from his encounter with Alita. Desperate, Grewishka begged Chiren to repair him. Initially hesitant, Chiren agreed when he mentioned that Alita was the one responsible for his condition, intrigued by the girl who had bested such a massive opponent. As Chiren worked on Grewishka, Vector arrived and scolded her for wasting valuable resources and time on the damaged bounty hunter. However, their argument was cut short when Nova, a powerful scientist from Zalem, took over Grewishka's voice. Speaking through the cyborg, Nova warned Vector not to interfere and expressed his interest in Alita. Nova explained that despite her small size, Alita's combat abilities were extraordinary, thanks to her mastery of the ancient and deadly Panzerkunst fighting technique. Nova ordered Chiren to rebuild and upgrade Grewishka to ensure he could bring Alita to him, dead. He then took control of Vector's body temporarily, delivering a chilling promise to Chiren. If she pleased him by following his orders, he would secure her passage to Zalem. This offer reignited Chiren's ambition, compelling her to obey Nova's demands. Reluctantly, she continued her work on Grewishka, preparing him for another confrontation with Alita. Meanwhile, Dr. Dyson and Alita got to know that Grewishka is off the bounty list. This means someone powerful is protecting him. Determined to uncover more about her past, Alita insisted on becoming a hunter warrior. She believed that fighting would trigger her memories and help her understand who she truly was. However, Dr. Dyson firmly refused, fearing for her safety. Feeling frustrated, Alita ran away. She met up with Hugo, who invited her to join a Motorball match. During the game, Hugo explained that the ultimate prize for the final champion of Motorball was a ticket to Zalem. At the Motorball match, Chiren was also there alongside Vector, scouting for potential champions. Her attention was drawn to a skilled player named Kinuba, who wielded a deadly weapon called grind cutters. Impressed, she noted his potential. Meanwhile, one of Hugo's friends approached him with an urgent matter, prompting Hugo to leave the match with his group. Later that evening, as Kinuba left the stadium, two masked motorcyclists ambushed him, attempting to take him down. Though Kinuba fought back with his grind cutters, more masked figures joined the attack, eventually overpowering him with electric shocks. A truck pulled up, and the assailants loaded Kinuba inside. As the crew began dismantling Kinuba's body to harvest his parts, Vector arrived to oversee the operation, praising their work. One of the masked figures removed their disguise, revealing Hugo as part of the crew alongside his friends. Vector paid the team for their efforts and instructed them to deliver Kinuba's parts to Chiren for her work on creating Motorball champions. Once the transaction was complete, Vector coldly finished off the incapacitated Kinuba, leaving no loose ends. The next day, Hugo and his friends took Alita outside the city to explore the wastelands beyond Iron City's borders. They explained how a devastating war wiped out everything outside the city, and how the Sky Cities, once symbols of human advancement, fell after challenging the United Republic of Mars, URM. Only Zalem survived the catastrophic war. They led Alita to a sunken URM warship, hoping it might trigger her memories. As soon as she saw the ship, something deep within her stirred. Without hesitation, Alita waded into the water and entered the wreckage. Crawling carefully through the ruined vessel, she ascended to the command deck, her movements guided by instinct. She opened a hidden chamber, revealing a glowing orb. Alita intuitively operated the controls, causing the orb to open and unveil an unused cyborg body. Sleek, advanced, and clearly designed for battle. Alita brought the body to Dr. Dyson, pleading with him to transfer her consciousness into it. She explained the inexplicable connection she felt to the body and how the warship had responded to her presence. Dyson, however, refused, warning her of the risks. Reluctantly, he revealed the truth. Alita was a berserker, one of the most advanced cyborg weapons ever created. This revelation explained her combat abilities and why she felt drawn to the body, but Dyson was adamant that merging her with it would make her too dangerous. Feeling rejected and misunderstood, Alita left the clinic in tears. Determined to reclaim her identity and purpose, she registered herself as a hunter-warrior. Alita went to the Hunter Warriors Bar, a rough and rowdy gathering spot for Iron City's most formidable fighters. As she entered, one of the warriors burst into laughter, mocking the idea of someone as young and small as Alita registering as a hunter-warrior. Ignoring the taunts, Alita boldly stepped onto the stage and called for unity among the warriors to take down their shared enemy, Grewishka, who was protected by the corrupt system. Her plea was met with dismissive laughter. The arrogant warrior approached Alita and offered to train her, but she scoffed, retorting that she wouldn't learn from someone who spent all his earnings on his appearance. Insulted, the warrior threatened her, but Alita merely laughed in his face. Enraged, he grabbed her, only for Alita to slam his head onto a table with ease. Furious, the warrior drew his blade and attacked, but Alita effortlessly kicked him back, disarming him. Turning to the other hunter warriors, Alita expressed her disappointment in the so-called heroes of Iron City. She then issued a challenge. If she could defeat them, they would join her cause. To provoke them further, she kicked their drinks into their faces, igniting a chaotic brawl. As the fight escalated, Alita held her own against the seasoned warriors, her combat skills shining through. When one of the warriors attempted to strike her from behind, Hugo intervened, stunning the attacker with a taser to protect her. At that moment, Dr. Dyson arrived and quickly took control of the situation. He threatened the rowdy group, warning that he would stop repairing their injuries for free if they continued fighting. Reluctantly, the warriors backed down, ending the skirmish. As the tension in the Hunter-Warrior Bar simmered, the newly upgraded Grewishka burst through the entrance, now equipped with deadly grind cutters. Hugo immediately recognized the weapons, but the other warriors refused to engage, knowing Grewishka was no longer on the bounty list and thus untouchable by their code. A growl broke the silence. It was the stray dog Alita had saved earlier. Grewishka, impressed by the dog's courage, cruelly killed it in front of everyone. Alita's eyes welled with tears as McTeague, a hunter-warrior known for his love of dogs, remained frozen, unwilling to act. Alita knelt beside the dog, using its blood to paint her face as a war mark. Standing tall, she boldly faced Grewishka. He attacked immediately with his grind cutters, forcing Alita to dodge the vicious strikes. Grewishka smashed a hole into the floor and leapt into the underground depths, taunting Alita to follow him. Without hesitation, she jumped in after him. In the dark, Alita launched an attack, aiming to disable his arm, but Grewishka's upgrades made him sturdier than before. His relentless grind cutters kept Alita on the defensive, forcing her to hide behind a pillar. As she evaded his strikes, Grewishka gloated about Nova, the mastermind who saved him and would shape Alita's fate. He delivered a brutal blow, severing Alita's body into pieces. Despite her injuries, Alita's determination remained unbroken. A sudden flash of memory emerged, a vision of her martial arts mentor Gelda, reminding her that Nova was their true enemy. Drawing strength from the memory, Alita used her remaining arm to propel herself forward, driving her weapon into Grewishka's eye. Before he could retaliate, Dr. Dyson, Hugo, and McTeague intervened. McTeague unleashed his pack of cyborg dogs, avenging the fallen stray and forcing Grewishka to flee. Dr. Dyson carried Alita's shattered body back to the clinic. Along the way, Chiren mocked him, accusing him of trying to replace their daughter with Alita. With no other option, Dr. Dyson finally agreed to merge Alita with the berserker body. As the body integrated with Alita, it transformed to reflect her subconscious image of herself. When Alita awoke in her new body, she was overjoyed, thanking Dr. Dyson and marveling at her newfound strength and abilities. Experimenting, she discovered she could generate arc plasma, producing fire at her fingertips. Dr. Dyson explained the body's advanced features, but reminded her that it was merely a vessel. It was her spirit and choices that defined her. Later, Alita walked with Hugo, excited to show off her enhanced body. She noted its increased sensitivity, marveling at the sensations. Hugo then gently made her close her eyes and leaned in, sharing a tender kiss that left Alita smiling. Meanwhile, Nova, still controlling Vector's body, commanded Grewishka to find and destroy Alita. He revealed that Alita was the last of the URM Technarchy's most advanced weapons, making her heart, an antimatter energy source, an invaluable prize. Frustrated with Nova's dominance, Vector resolved to create his own plan to deal with Alita and reclaim control. Vector invited Hugo for a drink, subtly praising his ambition. Hugo reassured him that he was working tirelessly to gather the 1,000,000 credits necessary to reach Zalem. However, Vector shifted the conversation to Alita, piquing Hugo's unease. The next day, Alita visited Hugo, who admitted that meeting her had made him question his desire to leave for Zalem, but Alita, determined to support Hugo's dream, insisted on helping him achieve his goal. In a bold gesture, she offered her URM heart, suggesting they could replace it with a simpler one later. Hugo, deeply moved, refused, unwilling to let her sacrifice herself for him. Instead, he proposed another idea. Alita should compete in Motorball and aim to become the champion, as the victor was promised a path to Zalem. Alita eagerly prepared for the game, while Dr. Dyson meticulously equipped her with additional safety gear, emphasizing that he still didn't fully understand URM technology. Unbeknownst to them, Vector had orchestrated a sinister trap. He had hired hunter warriors to eliminate Alita during the match. As Alita geared up to enter the arena, the stakes were higher than ever. She wasn't just fighting for victory, but for survival against a system that was determined to destroy her. Meanwhile, Hugo confronts his friend Tanji, who is in the middle of stealing parts from a cyborg. Hugo admits that he wants out of their criminal activities, causing tension between them. Tanji accuses Hugo of being swayed by Alita, leading Hugo to slam him against a wall. Their argument escalates into a scuffle, but they freeze when Zapan, the cunning and ruthless hunter warrior, appears. Zapan mocks Hugo for his thieving ways and taunts that Alita might forgive him only if he were dead. Hugo protests, pointing out that he doesn't have a bounty on his head. Zapan smirks and coldly kills the cyborg victim Tanji had targeted, framing the murder on Hugo, officially making him a wanted fugitive. When Tanji tries to defend Hugo, Zapan mercilessly cuts him down, slicing him in half without hesitation. Desperate and outmatched, Hugo hurls fiery ammunition at Zapan, creating a distraction to flee. Meanwhile, at the Motorball arena, Dr. Dyson notices something strange. The players in the match aren't typical challengers, but experienced hunter warriors. Realizing Vector's ploy, he grows concerned as Alita enters the field, ready to face what she assumes is just another game. From the stands, Vector watches with satisfaction, confident that Hugo's situation has drawn Alita into the perfect trap. Before the game begins, Dr. Dyson contacts Alita, warning her that her opponents are out to kill her. Despite the overwhelming odds, Alita remains determined, resolving to face them all head-on. As the Motorball game begins, the ball is launched into the arena, and Alita charges toward it with unmatched speed. Her opponents immediately target her, forming a deadly ambush. Alita grabs the ball and skillfully uses it as a weapon, smashing it into one of the cyborg players, and sending them flying into others. Her precise and powerful attacks earn cheers from the crowd. The match quickly descends into a chaotic brawl. Alita kills her enemies, striking them down one by one. She smashes one opponent so forcefully with the ball that their head flies off, leaving the crowd stunned. Despite her smaller size, Alita overpowers even the larger, heavily armored cyborgs with her agility and berserker body's immense strength. As she continues her battle, Hugo calls her for help, warning that Zapan is after him. Without hesitation, Alita leaves the arena mid-match, knowing the hunter warriors won't stop pursuing her. Two of them catch up to her, but Alita outwits them, using their own attacks against each other. She rigs a trap with chains, sending one of her pursuers into a grinder and dispatching the other with a crushing blow. When Alita finally catches up with Hugo, Zapan is on the verge of capturing him. Alita intervenes, delivering a powerful kick that sends Zapan flying. However, she notices a holographic bounty alert, showing Hugo's face listed for murder. Shocked, she confronts Hugo, who admits to stealing cyborg parts for Vector, but insists he never killed anyone. Despite the betrayal, Alita chooses to protect Hugo, slamming Zapan against a wall. Zapan taunts her, reminding her of the hunter-warrior code forbidding interference with another's bounty. In defiance, Alita claims to kill herself to prevent Zapan from taking Hugo. However, Zapan retaliates by stabbing Hugo. As Centurions, the robotic law enforcers, arrive to collect Hugo's bounty, Alita flees with Hugo's severely injured body. Hugo, barely conscious, urges her not to bring him to Dr. Dyson, fearing they'll both be executed. In his final moments, Hugo confesses his crimes and admits he wants to leave his past behind for her because he loves her. As Hugo succumbs to his wounds, Chiron finds them. Although Vector demands an update, Chiron lies, claiming they are gone. Desperate, Alita decapitates Hugo's body, preserving his head by attaching it to her own life support system. She presents the severed head to the Centurions as proof of the kill. Zapan realizes the deception, but hesitates to act, claiming the bounty is his. When the Centurions interpret Zapan's actions as theft, Alita seizes the opportunity, grabs Zapan's Damascus blade, and slices his face clean off. The next day, with Chiron's assistance, Hugo's head is attached to a new cyborg body. Alita watches over him as Dr. Dyson completes the procedure. Once Hugo wakes, Dr. Dyson reveals the harsh truth. Vector's promise to send him to Zalem was a lie. The only way to reach Zalem is by becoming a Motorball champion, and even that comes with no guarantees. Dr. Dyson further reveals his own connection to Zalem, explaining that he was born there but was exiled after his daughter's illness led Nova to cast them out. Meanwhile, Chiron confronts Vector, declaring her decision to quit working for him. She states that she is not just a scientist, but also a mother, and she no longer wants to be complicit in Nova's plans. Vector, sensing her defiance, tempts her with promises of Zalem, but Chiron sees through his manipulation and leaves but is blocked. Elsewhere, Alita sets her sights on Vector, determined to end his schemes. When confronted by Centurions demanding she surrender her weapon, Alita wields Zapan's Damascus blade and slices through them effortlessly. She storms into Vector's office, confronting him about the lies he told Hugo. Calmly, Vector reveals the grim truth. The only way he sends people to Zalem is as parts. He unveils Chiron's dismembered remains, packed for delivery to Nova. Before Alita can respond, Grewishka enters, striking her with overwhelming force. As Alita reels from the attack, fragmented memories surface. Scenes of her mission to destroy Zalem, her comrades being obliterated by a barrier, and Gelda's voice urging her to complete their mission. Strengthened by her resolve, Alita's berserker body regenerates. Grewishka attacks again, but Alita counters with precision, slicing his grind cutters and cleaving him in two. She then turns to Vector, who pleads for mercy. Ignoring his cries, Alita calls out to Nova, who takes control of Vector's body to speak directly with her. Nova praises Alita for surpassing his expectations and taunts her with his omnipresence and immortality. Despite his threats, Alita vows to defy him, proclaiming her autonomy. Enraged, she kills Vector's body, ending his role in Nova's plans. As Alita catches her breath, Dr. Dyson contacts her with alarming news that Hugo is climbing the tube to Zalem. Alita races to stop him, finding him there. She pleads with him to come down, warning that this is exactly what Nova wants. Hugo, fearful of the bounty on his head, insists he has no choice but to escape. Alita counters, promising they can face anything together. Moved by her words, Hugo hesitates, but Nova activates the deadly defense barrier. Hugo is struck, his body torn apart. Alita desperately tries to save him, catching his hand as he dangles above. Despite her efforts, Hugo's damaged body begins to fail. He thanks her for showing him a better life before slipping from her grasp and falling to his death. Heartbroken, Alita can only scream in anguish as Nova watches from afar. Months later, Alita has risen to prominence as a contender in the Motorball Champions League. Her determination to confront Nova remains. As she steps into the arena, the crowd erupts in cheers, and all eyes are on her, including Nova's, who watches with a sinister smile from Zalem. Alita raises her Damascus blade, silently vowing to one day bring him down. This is Top Movies Recap. Thanks for watching.